Ted Bundy didn't chase victims. He made them walk straight into his arms. The scariest thing about Ted Bundy, he looked like someone you'd trust with your life, childhood and early life. People often look for the roots of a killer's sadistic tendencies in their childhood, but Ted Bundy's early years seemed relatively calm, except for one detail. His mother, Eleanor Cowell, was presented as his older sister. On November 24th, 1946, Eleanor gave birth to Ted at a home for unwed mothers in Vermont. She had no husband, though her parents were alive. After some time, she returned home with the baby, and the family decided to keep the truth from him. Until a certain point, Ted believed his grandparents were his parents. Some reports suggest that Eleanor's father, Samuel, might have been Ted's biological father. Samuel was known to be strict, tyrannical, and had a violent temper. He often lashed out at family members and could hit the children for minor reasons. Ted's grandmother suffered from clinical depression and underwent electroshock therapy multiple times. Eleanor noticed strange behavior in Ted early on. At age 3, he brought all the knives from the kitchen and laid them around his sleeping cousin, with the blades pointing at her. Unwilling to endure her father's tyranny and aiming to protect young Ted from his harmful influence, Eleanor decided to leave her parents' home. She moved to Tacoma, Washington, settling near her uncle's family. She adopted her middle name, Louise, and took a new surname, Nelson. Soon, Louise Nelson met her future husband, Johnny Bundy, who adopted Ted. Ted never bonded with his stepfather and missed Samuel, whom he had long believed to be his real father. Despite Samuel's difficult character, Ted often spoke of him with admiration. Relationships and early adulthood. Ted also struggled with relationships outside his family. Peers saw him as shy and quiet, though he wasn't exactly an outcast. Ted later said he preferred solitude in his youth because he didn't understand human relationships. Everything changed when he attended the University of Washington and met his first love, Stephanie Brooks, a beautiful and intelligent woman from a wealthy family. They dated for about a year before she broke up with him, considering him not ambitious enough. Ted took the breakup hard, harboring a deep grudge and vowing revenge. Afterward, Ted dropped out of school and briefly returned to his relatives in Philadelphia. He then went to Vermont to uncover his family's secrets. He eventually obtained a birth certificate, revealing that Eleanor, whom he'd believed to be his sister, was actually his mother. Ted later admitted he could never forgive her for the lifelong deception. In 1969, after nearly a year away, Ted returned to Washington, re-enrolled in university to study psychology, and began dating a new girlfriend, Liz Kendall. She remained with him until his arrest in 1976. Later, during questioning, Liz mentioned some oddities in their relationship, especially concerning his sexual behavior. Ted's life seemed to be on track. He participated in Governor Daniel J. Evans' campaign, worked at a crisis hotline preventing suicides, enrolled in law school, and was in a relationship with a loving girlfriend. However, he still harbored resentment towards Stephanie and dreamed of revenge. In early 1974, he went on a business trip to San Francisco and met Stephanie for dinner. The new, improved Ted impressed her, and she fell for him again, ready to rekindle their relationship. Once he achieved this, Ted abruptly broke things off, the beginning of the murders. Feeling that his revenge wasn't sufficient, On January 4th, 1974, Ted began his killing spree. Over the next 6 months, 8 women disappeared from university campuses across various states. Initially, police didn't connect the cases due to the wide geographic spread. Later, investigators noted similarities among the victims. Young, attractive women with long dark hair parted in the middle, just like Stephanie's hairstyle. Often, the women vanished from public places like bars, beaches, or supermarket parking lots. The reason was simple. The perpetrator didn't seem threatening, and the victims went with him willingly. Ted, a skilled manipulator, knew how to gain trust. He often feigned injury using crutches or a sling and asked for help. Once the woman approached his car, a VW Beetle, Ted would strike her with a heavy object and force her inside. He'd then handcuff her and drive to a secluded area to assault and kill her. He often returned to the burial sites, applied makeup to the corpses, dressed them up, and engaged in sexual acts with them. Bound or restrained hands were a consistent element in his crimes, as the victim's helplessness aroused him. Later, while incarcerated, Ted told journalists that his psyche was influenced by pornographic magazines and comics he read in his youth, especially those depicting bondage and violence. He claimed such materials could corrupt the mind and potentially turn anyone into a maniac. He also likened his obsession with this literature to a drug addiction, always craving more. Some anti-pornography advocates use these statements in their campaigns against the industry. Capture and trial. The first significant lead came when, on a July day, 2 women disappeared within hours from a beach 32 kilometers from Seattle. One, Janice Ott, was lured by Ted under the pretense of helping him load a sailboat onto his car. The second, Denise Naslund, also engaged in conversation with him and got into his car. Ted later admitted that when he brought Denise home, Janice was still alive, and he killed one in front of the other. After this bold abduction of 2 women from a crowded beach, police interviewed witnesses who described a young, attractive man in a white tennis outfit with his arm in a sling, introducing himself as Ted. The police compiled a list of suspects named Ted, which included Bundy. A composite sketch was broadcast on TV, and Liz Kendall recognized her boyfriend and called the police. However, overwhelmed with similar tips, officers didn't take it seriously. By October 1974, police had found 5 more women's bodies, some dismembered, others reduced to bones. Bundy left no evidence. Liz, learning about the disappearances, called the police again to express her suspicions about Ted, but no action was taken. In November 1974, Bundy made a critical mistake. One of his victims escaped. 19-year-old Carol Daronch, whom he posed as a police officer to abduct, managed to flee from his car, even though he had handcuffed her. Soon after, a patrol officer stopped Bundy's car, finding his behavior suspicious. A search revealed a killer's kit, handcuffs, a ski mask, crowbar, rope, nylon stocking, and ice pick. Bundy was arrested, but a search of his home yielded nothing incriminating. This time, Liz Kendall's warnings were heeded. Detectives questioned her, and she shared her suspicions. Strange items she'd found among his belongings and his aggressive behavior. The car Ted had sold was confiscated and examined. Inside, they found hair from one of the victims, as well as microscopic hairs from 2 others. One sample matched Carol Daronch, who also identified Bundy. On February 23, 1976, the trial for Daroncha's abduction began. Bundy, advised by his lawyer, insisted on a jury trial, believing he could charm the jurors and secure his release. However, the evidence was strong, and on May 1st, the judge sentenced Bundy to 15 years in prison. Soon after, authorities discovered maps and other items indicating Bundy planned an escape. He was punished with solitary confinement for several weeks, though his overall prison conditions were more lenient than those of other inmates. Bundy's charm even influenced the prison staff. He received a special diet and better meals than other prisoners. Later, he faced another, more serious charge: the murder of Karen Campbell, whose hair had been found in his car. Bundy was transferred from Utah to Colorado, where he made his first escape. He requested access to the library, climbed out a window, and fled. He was free for 6 days before being recaptured.